Hi, Peter Charles here, Folks Fly Fishing. And if you've been watching my last two videos that dealt with the rabbit strip jig, you will see, how effective it was in attracting bass and how lousy a job it did at hooking them up. Because these little smallmouth are a pound, maybe less. The mouths are not very big, smallmouth, and they were having trouble hooking up. So I thought, you know what? I will put a stinger hook on these rabbit strip wings because I thought they were short striking. They were grabbing the wing and missing the hook. So I've got a little bit of footage here. I was going to do a full video on putting stinger hooks. So let's take a quick look at some of it. And you can see how I approached this problem. Okay, you can see we have these little barbs here. In the previous video, I squished them. I'm not going to squish them in this one. I'm going to use them. So what we do is we just start our thread, and I'm just going to put my mono on. I'm just going to put a few wraps and I'll show you what I'm doing here. Now you can see I've put it on the side. The long end of the mono is facing forward. Now the next step is I'm going to bring it round the hook, or that barb I should say, squish it tight, and I'm going to wrap back, really scrunch that down. Now just keep it all on top. I'm going to trim that off. There we go. Now this is the part that you use to thread through your wing and tie your hook on. And now you can start building the body of your fly, and you're ready to go fishing. And this is now secured. It won't come out. So then we just pass the mono up through the wing and tie it to our hook and embed the hook here. Okay, I went through a lot of fuss, put a lot of stinger hooks on my jigs, went out to the river, and I fished for an hour and 10 minutes in two different spots. I had in total 18 hits. I had 5 hookups, 4 fish landed. Okay, and out of those 18 hits, those are only the ones I knew for sure. Okay, the maybe ones I'm not counting. Okay, so that's pretty damn good. That's about 3.8 minutes, in between hits. So it's quite effective. And this is on a weekend, when fish are pressured. Let's see a lot of angling pressure in that stretch of the river, and they just didn't leave this thing alone. It's just bang, 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 bang. So it proves that this thing will deliver for you under those conditions. But what was going wrong with the hookup? Why didn't the stinger hook work? Because in the end, not a single fish was hooked up on the stinger hook. So let's take a quick look at some of these hookups and you will see what they looked like. Got him. Nice fish. Be interesting to see where he's hooked up. Not that nice. He's hooked up on the main hook. I say, don't hit me with it. Okay, so that one was hooked up on the main hook. Got one. Same size as before. Hold still. Again, hooked up on the main hook. So the stinger hook is not improving my hookup rate, and all the fish I've hooked and landed were on the main hook. Got it. It's not a big fish, but good Lord, these Grand River smallies are tough fish. hooked up on the main hook. This one's a little bit better than average. No, he's about the same. He's just, this is the first hookup I've had on the main hook where I'd say it's a solid hookup. And there's your problem with the stinger hook. Come on, don't shake, I'll get you off. Is after you release the fish, and you're using the stinger hook, and then you release the fish, as the fish drops off, it hooks itself on the stinger hook. Okay, you can see, out of the 5 hookups that I had with the landed fish, I'll get the right number. Fingers up, Charles. Out of the 5 fish landed over the 2 days, 1 had the wing of the hook in its mouth and is hooked up right here. So in other words, it came up from behind, inhaled everything, and got hooked up on the main hook. The other 4 were hooked up on the main hook as well. They were hooked up here, very tenuous, very light, barely grabbing the skin. And, I was lucky to land them. The tail or the wing of the jig was on the outside of the mouth. What that tells us, they came from the side, they hit it from the side. And because they weren't very big fish, they were around about a pound, their mouths were not big enough to completely engulf the jig. Whereas with the Headstander fly, because it's tied on a smaller hook, and the lead eyes are much smaller than the jig head of the standard jig and lighter, that when they come in from the side, they can inhale the entire head of that Headstander fly. But with the bigger jig and the heavier jig, they weren't able to do that. So what was happening when the little guys would hit it from the side, I would try to set the hook, and most of the time I'd just be pulling it out of the mouth. Occasionally I would, catch one right there and land it. So the stinger hook did nothing for me. In fact, all it did was I stuck it in my finger once, and when I was releasing one fish, it snagged up here as I was releasing the fish and I had to free the fish. So, in reality, all it proved to be was a nuisance. And it provided no value at all for smallmouth bass. So it's interesting, you think you've got a problem, you think you've got a solution for the problem. When you go fishing, you find out it doesn't work. And I think, when we produce these videos for YouTube, we always talk about things that work. We never talk about the things that don't work. But that's often more instructive. We learn more from the things that don't work when we can see why they don't work. And that's what happened in this case. I could see that all the fish came on the main hook, and all but one of them was a very tenuous grab right there, which showed that they actually hit it from the side. And, it really tells us how these fish were striking and why we weren't getting them. Now, if you don't want little smallmouth, keep the jig the same size. You won't hook up very many. I mean, if you're a competition angler, you won't want the little guys. You're wasting your time retrieving them, taking the hook out. You can keep fishing, and maybe a big fish will take it instead. So, maybe the full-size jig is a good thing for you if you're a competition angler. And as I said before, largemouth, I don't think it's going to be a problem at all. They'll just draw it in. Even a little guy will have no trouble pulling the whole thing in his mouth. But smallmouth, it's an issue. So if you're not interested in the little guys, leave it full size. If you want this jig to catch little fish, little bass, then I would suggest making it the size of my Headstander fly. And I'll put up a picture here so you can see the size difference. So you're looking at a size 4, size 6 hook, and a small jig head, and throw it on ultralight tackle. And you can have a hoot. It'll be the same size as a Headstander fly. It'll be equally as effective, and you'll catch a ton of small fish, and you'll have a blast on light tackle. So it's a different approach. If you do it full size, you're not going to get the little guys. If you shrink it, you will. And if you're talking about largemouth, it doesn't matter. Also, if you want to leave the stinger hook in there for steelhead, go for it. You're definitely going to need the stinger hook for steelhead because you're not going to hook them up on the main hook most of the time because they're notorious short strikers. Pike, this would be a fantastic jig in a larger size for pike. Do it in garish colors or subdued colors, it doesn't matter. Man, this thing would be fantastic for pike. Us fly guys use a lot of rabbit in our pike flies, and it's great material. So, you can use this jig, just make it bigger, make it smaller, change the colors, but the same basic pattern, just replicate it in different ways for a different size fish. Walleye, I don't know whether you're going to need that stinger hook or not. That would be something to check, but I think this would be a dynamite walleye fly as well. Again, for the same reason, just pull it along the bottom very seductively, and you should have no problem getting a lot of hookups on it. So as I say, you might have to experiment whether you need the stinger fly or not. I haven't done enough of that to be able to tell you, but it's definitely worth the effort. So, rabbit is a great material. Fly tyers love it. It's a very effective material in the water. Conventional anglers don't make any use of it at all. As far as I know, I've never heard of a conventional angler ever using rabbit in any of their lures or jigs or whatever. And it's a great material. So give this rabbit strip jig a try. And as I say, choose the size, choose the colors for your application, and it's going to work like a charm. Just remember, a nice slow retrieve. Don't burn it back. Just let it move seductively. Make it look like it's trying to hide, and those pressured fish are going to whack it. So give it a try. Cheers.